to commas.
Commas is all things tech.
See culture and technology coming together.
Life hacks.
The practicality right now and the inefficiency of the internet of buying and selling stuff is extraordinary.
Entrepreneurship advice.
I think the first thing is you got to understand your business inside out.
Love and tech.
I've almost reduced dating to kind of this very momentary snap of a person.
It's gonna be a fire show.
I have yet to see something these days that's truly differentiated.
New advice and new inspiration every show.
It really is about the next generation of creatives going faster, further than we did.
And now, Sequoia Blodgett.
Now let's start stacking them commas.
All right, creative entrepreneurs, this episode is just for you. We talk about the business of being a creative, and we dive into the difference between social media popularity and actually building a business. Let's get into it.
Entrepreneurship advice. Learn from the hottest and most successful investors, founders, and innovators in the game.
Determine your greatness.
It's time to get your knowledge up.
Okay, for sure.
What's poppin'? We've got special guest, Alton Glass, director extraordinaire in the building. What's good, Alton? How you doing?
How you doing? Thanks for being in the building.
I'm so excited to have this conversation because so many people kind of sweep this under the rug, but I think it's one of those that in LA is kind of a known thing. And I feel like with now both of us being in tech and in entertainment, there are two very different sides of the spectrum. And so I want to focus on the creative side first. And let's talk about the business of creative. How did you break into the industry? You tell us a little bit about that first. And then let's talk about kind of the struggle of staying afloat as a creative in Los Angeles.
Ooh.
I know, I got in there, right?
So one of my main things I always like to talk about is, creative entrepreneurship. Even as artists, we forget about this is the entertainment business, right? It's all about, this entertainment. So, we have this starving artist mentality for quite too long. And it's a business. So for me, I've always focused on being an entrepreneur first. And, I had my rough patches coming up where it was like, okay, I'm trying to balance out my passion and doing all these jobs. But at the same time, you move from, I went from Detroit to Atlanta to LA, and you're talking about a whole different lifestyle. So for me, I had to start a business that allowed me to have creative freedom in the entertainment industry, which was, I had a janitorial company when I moved to LA, and that's how I got in the door. I had contracts for public storage, and then I had a contract with DreamWorks on this movie called Biker Boys. Thankful to Paul and Tammy Garnes, the producers on that movie. So I had a contract with them, and I was going to school for cinematography and camera, working as a camera assistant to become a camera assistant. And one day I was like, look, can I do an internship and work as a camera PA on one of y'all shoots? And I worked with this DP named Amy Vincent. And they work in the camera department. They liked what I was doing, and they called me back that following year when they produced this movie called Woman Thou Art Loose with Bishop T.D. Jakes. And that's when I met Michael Schultz, and he let me work under him on his different movies and television shows as a director, yeah.
So that's cool. So you came in the game with a business, right? So you already had that business mindset. I think a lot of creatives, when I moved to LA as a creative, I was like, all right, I just want to create content. But I didn't understand the business side of that. So I feel like that's where that struggling artist piece comes in, where it's like, oh, you're going to eat ramen noodles and you're just going to create content and that's what you're going to do. And you feel like that is still happening 3 years later and you're wondering why, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's super important to understand the business aspect of it. So you interning, do you think that's what got you that kind of perspective? Or did you have to go and actually get some business education when it came to being a creative?
Well, I think, I got to credit my dad. Actually, my mom and my dad had two different backgrounds. My mom was a 9-to-5er and my dad was an entrepreneur. But they gave me balance, right? So it's like, okay, I have to, continue hustling, but at the same time, put up what I need to build the tools I need to have the freedom I need, right? So for me, it was like, I was selling peanut butter when I was 12, door to door. And potpourri and pecan clusters and candles, right? So I learned from early on, knocking on doors at 12, getting thick skin that I had to go out here and and hustle, So I applied that mentality when I wanted to work in the film industry. It was like, okay, I want to be a PA. What do I got to do to get in the entertainment industry? I started off as an extra on if you check out Remember the Titans, you'll see me in there with one of the football players.
You're like, I was doing it all, okay? Whatever you got to do to get on.
And when I got on set, I was like, okay, how do I navigate this? And I can still work and still learn production. I'm on set as an extra, still asking questions to the grips, the everyone on set, because I know ultimately I want to be a director and I want to make films. So I just try to put myself in position to either gain growth, make some money, and make sure that I'll stay a part of my vision.
So let's talk about that because, so when I got into the industry, it was through music videos, right? And a lot of people who wanted to be film directors are like, oh, I'll direct music videos and that's how I'll get in. But you didn't do that. You went straight to filmmaking. So what was that decision? Why did you?
Actually, a lot of people don't know. That's when you were directing videos, I was like writing treatments back in the days, right? For different directors. And I had some opportunities early on in my career that I probably jumped into too fast as a director.
Okay.
When I was directing, and I messed up a few opportunities, and that's what kind of put me on my ass. And I had to really learn how to humble myself and get the skills, because it's like people don't talk about talent versus skill, right? You can have a lot of talent, but you still got to cultivate and hone your skills. And I had a lot of talent, but I just didn't have all the skills I needed, and I was getting challenged in certain areas as a director. And that's when I decided to go back and learn cinematography and camera to really beef my skills up. And that's when I got an opportunity to work straight, just film, and I left music video.
Wait, so you were working in music videos before?
I did a stint.
I dabbled.
I did a stint, I always loved music videos, but I think by the time I finally learned how to, when I started finally working as a director, music videos have started to transition so much because of the music industry budgets were changing. Like the guys I worked for, they were getting budgets, $500,000, $600,000, $800,000 videos. And then by the time I finished and I'm ready to direct, the videos were smaller and I was competing with, the bigger directors. So I said, you know what? Let me just focus on what I really wanted to do, which is film. So I said, let me find a mentor who I can work under. And that's when I transitioned out.
Do you think it's super important for mentors? Because I feel like a lot of people, there's a differentiation, I think. I think there's finding a mentor to help you actually get on and understand the industry, and it's finding somebody who will help you get on. Do you see what I'm saying? So let's talk about the difference.
It was really cool. I used to shoot behind the scenes a lot for different directors, and I worked for a director named Brian Barber. And he said, look, man, I'm not going to make you like a mentee because I don't want you to be soft, right? I want you to get out there. I want you to stay hustling. And I really appreciated him doing that, because he had a lot of great opportunities. And he could say, here, take this video, for $50,000, you know what I mean? I'm going to let you do this. And a lot of directors do that for some of their directors, right? And it works for some and some it doesn't. But it made me have work harder. And I could always call him if I needed advice, but he didn't give me any opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, I think it was great when I started to meet different directors. I would just figure out what it is I wanted to know, and I would just seek advice, and then I had to navigate from there.
See, I like that. I like having, because I have Ray K, and that's essentially how everything got built up. And he was like, write all my treatments, do everything to kind of help build that structure and getting you to understand the industry. And then essentially from there, then I started directing under Rock Hard Films. So I think that that's a difference between, I feel like a lot of people in LA particularly are like, I just want to find that person that's going to put me on.
Yeah, no.
It's like, wait a minute.
Because it's like if someone give you the fish, and you don't learn how to fish, when they leave, how you gonna eat? Right?
He took the fish.
Yeah, it's like I gotta learn how to hunt,
Right.
And for me, it was very important to understand how to create work, and then not only that, you got technology changing so fast. I mean, we came up in that, I call it that in-between era, right? So it's like you had directors shooting on 35 millimeter film, getting big budgets. And then you got a taste of those budgets for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And then here comes high definition and digital. And then all of a sudden, here comes social media content creators. It's like, okay. So you got all these different transformations happening, and you got to figure out how to stay focused and how to constantly reinvent yourself and continue to grow And I always like to say, even though you might not start a business, you need to think like a business. And that's been my whole focus as an artist.
I love that. So how did you sustain yourself within that transition? Because I remember record labels hitting me and the budgets were like when we started, my budgets were like 150, right? Like 150,000. And then I remember a particular label, I won't say any names, hit me and was like, yo, we got this budget for 2,000. I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, I remember those days too, with a straight face.
With a straight face. So, but we did it, which is even more crazy.
Yeah, I've gone above and beyond. And I think that's probably what made me like stop doing music videos. Because you can pour your heart into something.
Yeah.
You can pour your heart into something thinking it's going to get you that next big opportunity.
They'll never call you again.
Thank you. It was great. Like no roses, no nothing. That's it. Okay.
I'm done. So how did you sustain yourself? How did you say, okay, you know what? I understand the industry is pivoting. How did you pivot with the industry and stay on board versus saying like leaping and like doing something completely different?
So when I was coming up, they used to say, don't be a jack of all trades and a master at nothing, right? But, you have to be a polymath today, right? So for me, it's like, how do I be a jack of all trades and being a jack of all trades? And I started off, I was editing first, then I became a camera operator. So I had multiple different disciplines in my toolkit that allowed me to continue to work. And once I was able to work in those each areas, then I knew how to hire people and how to find people to help me grow my business as a production company.
So when did you make that jump into tech? Because I know essentially you kind of disappeared for a second and then you reappeared and you were doing all kind of like filmmaking, but with the tech emphasis. So like VR and like all of those things. So when did you make that leap?
Actually, I got to credit you for that because I was trolling on your social and I was like, what is Sequoia doing with this technology thing here? What are you doing up in San Francisco? And I was really intrigued. I was really intrigued by that because we come up doing traditional media together, film, television, and music videos, and that gave me just sort of an eye opener as to what else was out there. And around that time, I had been dabbling in VR, but I hadn't quite fully committed to taking that dive. And I think around like 2015, I started like really getting into it. And one day I was on doing some post-production at this camera house called Blacklist Digital. And they also have a rental division inside the building. And they had this really weird looking camera system. It was a 360 camera rig, VR rig.
Like, what is that?
And I was like, what is this? So the guy dropped me in the headset, let me look at the VR, and I was like, okay, this right here, it took me back to that first time when you knew you wanted to be a filmmaker or a storyteller. It was like my imagination was just opened up again, and I was like, wow. This right here is something that I have to really know about. What is this? Because it gave me that essence of my childhood again, to know that there was some endless possibilities out there, right? And that's when I went down the rabbit hole. They were like, look, go check out this expo called VR LA. I went to this expo, and I just started meeting people, and I kept it close to the cuff like another year. Went to NAB, started going to CES, these different conferences, really understanding what's going on with media and the transition. And then, understanding that we were getting ready to move into another industrial revolution with technology and equipment and jobs. And I'm like, you know what? And not only that, I'm looking at social media. I'm like, okay, well, I missed that wave, right? I'm not, I respect social media content creators, but that's just not the era that I came up in, right? But content is queen, whatever you want to call it, right? So I understand storytelling is still at the heart of everything we do. And how do I take my talents and my skills and expand on that in this time period? And VR was a way, for me, it was like, I call it the gateway drug. It opened me up to many opportunities in tech as a whole. And now, it's broadened my perspective into what I can use technology for to empower my storytelling.
So you made the first, at least from my understanding, one of the first all-black VR films, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've read that in different articles.
You like, I think.
You know what I mean? I can't say that because I didn't do the research to know if I was the first African American with an all black, cast and predominantly, black crew to make a VR piece. But I would say that a lot of people who work with me on my sets, they are very amazed to say, wow, this is very diverse to be in this area of the industry in VR with this much diversity. And I've had people that are, white males say, wow, man, this is very diverse, and they do a lot of VR projects. So I'm really thankful to be able to open up people to what these new opportunities are out here, because we're at a point in history where for the first time, we get the opportunity to build the railroad tracks and the train at the same time. You know what I mean? So we at a point now we can create a new reality for ourselves. New ecosystems, and technology could either be the great equalizer or it could be the great divider, and it's up to us and how we take advantage of it.
That's awesome. And then, so because of it being like this VR kind of experience, did you get backers for it? Did you dig into your own pockets? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. So, I was thankful that when I was working, directing and producing films, I was able to make some, investments and diversify as I got older, and I pretty much bootstrapped the company. I remember 2016, I decided after I did my last movie, I was going to take off work. And I took off a year just to focus on my complete dive into VR. And I remember getting my first job, which was interesting, was in Nashville, of all places, for this sneaker company. And just so happened that someone I knew became creative director for the company, and they were looking to do a VR project. And since I had been on the circuit networking and meeting different people, I had access to some camera equipment and some tools that weren't readily available yet. And the company who initially was awarded the job, their equipment was not ready yet. So they couldn't fulfill the commitment because their shipment date on their gear wasn't going to come to after the job. And the company was like, look, we got you. And they gave me the job. We knocked it out. And then I did another panel in Frisco. And that's when I met this company who represented Toyota. And I did my first official, big brand. We did an activation for Toyota, did some original content creation and an experience for NBA All-Star. And I was like, you know what? I think I can hit my stride. And then I decided, once I did that, I decided to invest the resources that I made right back into the company. And that's when I invested in my first VR R&D project. It's a short film called A Little Love. And it was a big ask. It was like, you know what, because you're depending on all these people who are technicians in a new industry, and there's not a lot of people who are in this industry, and there's no diversity at all. So I'm at the mercy of paying all these high rates to all these people. And I'm like, you know what? This is school for me and school for everybody else I want to get involved in this. So I had to take that leap of faith and say, you know what, this is my investment in not only myself, but everyone else. So you're not intimidated by this, because the barrier to entry was extremely high. And when I made that film, I didn't see the opportunities it would have presented, but that's when, thankfully, I got that award from Black Enterprise, and I appreciate that.
So what opportunities opened up from you making the actual VR film and getting it out there?
So we ended up showing the film back at in Miami at American Black Film Festival in conjunction with CNN VR, and it was a great experience. Just so happened that Verizon had heard about it, and a few other companies, and then they called me in to do some stuff with them, and then Oculus, which is Facebook's company. I took the film, I submitted to them, and I was accepted into their program. And then on that journey, I met someone else at Google, and then I got a grant from Google to do my new project now. And now, I'm starting to get asked to create immersive media curriculum for different colleges now. And I think that's very important, because if you look at how Hollywood was built, and look at the institutions they pull from. They pull from the NYUs, the USCs, right? And you look at that funnel and that alumni created. So it's like, we can create a pipeline where the education is strong, and we can create an industry. We got a whole ecosystem. And I say, that's very important to me, to be an educator as well as a storyteller.
So one of the key takeaways I think from that story is that you have to put out your own money. You know what I mean? You have to put your own skin in the game. You have to bootstrap. You have to take the risk on yourself first before somebody else wants to take a risk on you. I feel like a lot of times people are like, give me money, invest in me, but they have not proven themselves in any way, shape, or form, whether that be on the tech or filmmaking side. Mm-hmm. And I think for you were like, you know what, I'm going to throw this money in there and I'm just going to take that risk and like see what happens. And knowing it's a super new medium, so I'm sure it wasn't like a little bit of change.
Nah, it was like you're just throwing it in the wind. You don't know where it is. It's like going back to school for a few semesters. It's like, I got to take this money, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm planning it in myself, and I know that if I can do it, I can inspire other people to do it. And now, I mean, you look up now, how many people, how much diversity is starting to come into VR and AR and all these emerging media opportunities now. So I'm happy to be a part of that. But yeah, I mean, it's tough but what I do believe is if you show, when you spend your own money, you're a lot more careful, right?
You're right, because it's yours.
Because it's yours, right? So, but it's like, and when people can see that you believe in yourself, I think it makes it that much easier for them to believe in you, right? And you may not have all the money to do it, but I think if you put some skin in the game, it helps. And I've had that, and I've done that even when I've made my independent films. I will come to the table with some startup money. Say, look, I have some skin in the game. I need the rest. It might only been 10%, but hey,
some skin.
Some skin. And they know I did my due diligence. And here's what I'm going to do, and this is why, and this is how I'm going to, make this grow.
Was there any time where you were just like, I want to quit? Like, this is just not.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Oh my gosh. You know what? That's like one of the most. We have to be transparent, I think, as entrepreneurs, because I think that's like they need like a Entrepreneurs Anonymous, right? Where we all can just go sit around in a circle and just talk about how tough it is, and how you want to give up or how you want to jump off the bridge. Like, just be honest. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And you see people on these panels and these talks all the time. It's like, I know we all going crazy, pulling our hair out. You know what I mean? Let's talk about those conversations.
It, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
So yes, I have had many days where it's like, you know what, I want to quit, I want to give up, and because you especially when it comes down to capital, right? Because I have a family, I have a mortgage, I have a lot of responsibility, so it just piles up. But I'm still reinvesting.
Right.
So you have to have I have to say I'm thankful to have a really great support system. Because I remember I've asked my wife one day, I was like, babe, you're not really tripping about me spending all this money? And she was like, nah, because I've seen you spend it and get it back. And I was like, you know what? I could appreciate that. You know what I mean? That continues to show me that I continue to keep going. And but I would say that one instance was I remember when I did do my VR project, the one in Miami. This is what also shows you how you have to keep going. So the Black Enterprise Award and the showcase when I showed the film at ABFF, if I wouldn't have done that, I don't know where I'd be right now, right? But there was a moment when I got this opportunity and they paid me to showcase my film, and I was like, wow, I just made this VR film, and now I got a budget to bring it down to Miami, bring a whole crew and showcase it. And we put 75 people in headsets and did a SyncStart activation of my movie for the first time in a theater, watching this movie at the same time. People were holding hands. I was like, wow, I was captivated by this experience.
It was dope.
And what happened was the day before, I was prepping everything. Samsung had came in, sponsored all the hardware. It was awesome. But what happened was we almost missed our flight because there was a technical issue with the equipment. So now, you remember when the Samsung 7 was blowing up on all the
It is
planes
exploding,
and stuff?
yes.
So we didn't have a choice because I had missed my my turnaround for shipment. So we carrying 75 Samsung phones onto the airport, right? TSA lets us go through with the phones. I get on the plane. They're going to let me put it in top of the bin, but the bag is too big. So the lady says, "Open up your bag, so let me see what's inside. Maybe you can break it up." They open it up. She's like, "Oh no, those are 7s. Get off the plane." Right? The pilot came out from the cockpit. He was like, "Sir, get off of the plane immediately. You have to get off of the plane." Now I got my whole crew. They on the plane. They seated and everything, right? So I have to get off of the plane with all of the gear. And my crew flies into Miami. I'm like, Lord, how am I gonna get these phones? Because there's no the event is in 24 hours, right? So I'm like, hold on, let me Waze this and MapQuest to see if I can just get somebody to drive with me to Miami. But it's gonna take 28 hours, right? So I'm like, okay, so that ain't gonna work, and I can't ship them, right? So I go home, and I'm like, man, they done spent all this money. The sponsors, everybody gonna show up in 24 hours. What am I gonna do? And I spent all this money.
Yeah.
And I'm being paid. I go home, I call the shipping company. They say, "Sir, there's nothing gonna get this in until noon. The event is at 10:30. It's already sold out." I go home and I open my garage, and never forget, and I'm sitting in the garage, and I said, "Lord, I know you didn't bring me this far to drop me off, right?" And I say a prayer about it, and I think it's over for me. And I'm trying to figure out, what do I say to my clients and everyone, all this money I spent? And I say, you know what, let me just make one more phone call. I made one more phone call to, I think it was UPS or one of them. And they say, you know what, actually we have one more shipment coming in at 9:30, but you gotta go now.
He was like, "Vroom."
So I gotta go from the valley all the way up. I said, where? They said, up in Manhattan Beach.
Wow.
So they said, you got to hurry and get to Manhattan Beach if you want to get this shipment out. They get there by 9:30 or 10. I rush up there, get it out, book the next flight out. We only have to push back the event 45 minutes.
Wow.
And it happened. And everything from there just continued to spiral. All the opportunities from that moment, it was like, wow. At this point, I know that I just got to keep going. You know what I mean? I could have gave up. But that moment was like, keep pushing.
That's crazy.
And I look up now, and now, you know, my company is finally in a great place, and we're growing, and I'm really thankful. But I've had many moments like that in my career.
You know what's interesting about that story, too? You had no control over that. Like, Samsung 7s. Like, what are you supposed to know? You're like, I just need to get these phones there, right? And so I think a lot of the times we think like it's the end when it's really like, I think our brains magnify what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that would have killed your career.
I thought it was. I really did.
I
really thought it was over.
Right.
It was at the beginning of a great opportunity I created.
Right.
And I'm like, how is it going to end when I just created it?
Right.
Just like that. And I'm going to owe money.
That's true.
I'm going to owe all this money back that I spent to this sponsor.
Right.
Like, how can I do that? And my reputation is a wrap.
Yes and no, because you have no control over that, right? It's not like you mess that up. And I think that a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, we feel like we're responsible for things that are out of our control, and we think it's the end. Like, it's like damnation. And it's like, you don't have control over that, though, right? Like, at the end of the day, you hustled and you got it done, but like, you don't have control over that.
Well, one thing I did learn about that was you can't believe what everybody tells you when they work at these companies, because, you know, they'll say, yeah, sure, you can bring this, you can bring that. But there's a lot of protocol that people just don't know, even in certain organizations. And that was really up to us to really dig and read that and know that, no, you cannot travel with X amount of this, X amount of that, because that's happened before for the second time, where an employee says, sir, it's no problem. But the employee handbook said, no, you cannot do that.
Right.
And that happened to me on another job with shipping some equipment, and the wait was over. And the two people were arguing about it, you know, with the handbook.
I think the lesson from that is know that shit's gonna hit the fan.
Yep.
And prepare for shit to hit the fan. And if you can't rectify shit hitting the fan, then you just move forward, right? I feel like a lot of us feel like it's the end of our careers, or it's like career suicide if we don't get the stamps. First of all, you could have blown the whole plane up. like you talking about the end of somebody's career.
I know,
like you talking this shit. Like, let's start there.
That's a good point. And you have to be like, really, you have to own it.
Yeah.
Right? Be accountable, because you want the credit when it's all great.
Right.
You want to win and you want the credit when it's all great. But you do have to own it and be accountable. And I think you have to have a team around you. And you have to be transparent, because that happened to me when I did my film Crew. I raised the money for this movie called Crew. And a week before my last week of rapping, one of my investors fell out. Mm-hmm. And I had to do payroll. And I had to actually talk to everyone on the crew. And I could have done the LA thing and just, let's keep working. And your checks will not be here in 30 days. And that's a culture that I have experienced coming up as a production assistant.
Not the LA thing, bro.
Right? So, but I had to talk to everyone, and I gathered them all up, and I said, look, I do not have the money to pay you all this last week to go. For all of those who know me, you know my track record. You know I'll take care of you. But for those who don't know me on this production, it's up to you to decide whether you want to stay or not. And but if you do, you'll be the first ones that I pay in this next wave. And my other people that I do know, it'll take me a little bit longer, but I'll get it to you. And by the grace of God, everyone on the production stayed on the production and continued to work for me on the shoot. And then I ended up, by the grace of God, I swiped one of my credit cards. And this was back when I had a nice line. And when I had my business production company. And I was able to get in advance. And I paid who I could. And then after that, I ended up raising the rest of the money like a month and a half later and paid everybody and added a little something on it. And to this day, I have credit with human beings. And that's what's most important. You know what I mean? Sometimes your human capital is what's going to take you a lot further than just cash.
Yeah, you have people trust you and they believe in you. And I think that is more important than all of it, right? Mm-hmm. Because your character is what will continue you forward in any industry, whether that be tech or filmmaking or whatever it is. So I think that's something that you can totally ride on, right? But for things that are out of your control, they're just out of your control. And I think just for every entrepreneur out there, filmmaker, creative, make sure that when you're going forward and you're actually building out your career, that you're creating those relationships where people trust and can depend on you versus like just trying to build up your name and like going through the process, but not really fostering any relationships, right? Yeah. And I think that's what's important about this whole situation is like you created that credibility. So whatever the case may be, like in that situation, you were able to keep your entire crew on board, whereas in another situation that may not have happened, right? Yeah. So I think when we hit those down times and those pitfalls, control what you can control and let the rest go, and whatever happens with it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, do your best and let God do the rest.
Hey. So tell us about GRX Immersive Labs.
So GRX Immersive Labs, I kicked off this year, and it's basically a lab, focused on the on the advancement of immersive technologies, immersive storytelling, emerging tech, creative entrepreneurship, and IP development, and really understanding how you leverage technology to empower your storytelling, and also how you grow yourself as an entrepreneur with your creative skills, and staying, abreast with the times and this digital transformation that we're going through into the next generation.
So, what type of projects are you doing with GRX?
So right now we have I went to the Oculus Launchpad immersive program, and we have a program with HBCUs. I never had a chance to do many college tours, so I wanted to create an experience where HBCUs could capture the essence of their campus life and showcase that and to increase enrollment for students outside of the area to experience these campuses in new ways. So we have a program with Oculus. We're doing that, and also have another one with Verizon where we're doing a virtual reality career exploration platform for opportunities and to raise opportunities and awareness in STEM for students in underserved areas. It's like bringing Career Day to the students in VR, so they understand what opportunities are coming in the future. And then I have a grant from Google to do we're doing a project right now called POV, Points of View, which is a sci-fi series I'm excited about, 5 episodes about law enforcement drones in the future and how they can impact communities of color with biased artificial intelligence and algorithms. Yeah.
So you got a lot going on.
POVseries.com if you want to check out that project. It's 5 episodes coming soon. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So that's back into my scripted world right there, but all shot in VR in the episodic series. Yeah.
That's dope because you're blending the two worlds. And I think that's what's important to know is you didn't lose one or the other. You took the two and merged them together.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Immersive storytelling, that's what we're doing now. Yeah.
And if somebody wanted to get in contact with you or learn more about GRX, how do they do that?
You can go to the website or you can go to we have social accounts, GRX Immersive Labs on Instagram. We have Twitter, GRX Immersive Lab. And my personal account is Alton Glass VR, and also have a website that's in development as we cut together some of our newer projects. But right now it's just alton-glass.com from the personal side.
Yo.
Love, life, and tech.
With Sequoia Blodgett.
Just part of our culture.
Because balance is real between the swipe culture, mental health, personal growth, career, and just about everything in between.
Just keeping it real.
It's a lifestyle.
Incredible vibes, incredible people.
Love,
Life.
and tech.
Okay, ladies. Modern Fertility is a comprehensive fertility hormone test for women that you can take home. We're waiting longer to have kids because we got stuff to do, but it is posing a problem. 1 in 6 couples have trouble conceiving. We all have the tools to help us prevent pregnancy, but we need more information to help us plan for it, even if kids are far in the future. So Modern Fertility gives you a customized report to help you understand your fertility through your hormones. You'll have a personal fertility team to help you understand your results and make a game plan. You get access to the team of fertility nurses, a weekly webinar, and their online community for women just like you. The way this works is you take the test home, you send in the test, and you get your results back in a few days. For a proactive fertility hormone test, you're often paying anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. This one is just $159, and Modern Fertility gives you access to the information you need to help you plan ahead. And what's even more impressive is you can put this on your FSA or your HSA. And the test will tell you if you have more or less eggs than average for your age, what you can expect from IVF or egg freezing if that's something that you want to do, and how your hormone levels relate to PCOS, which 1 in 10 women have. Additionally, it'll give you general hormone health, which is a window into actually your broader health. So that's really important. You get questions answered with one of the fertility nurses. You can join their weekly webinars called their Egginars, which is a little spin on that. And you get involved in the community with women who are going through the same things because everybody knows community is super important. Whether you want kids now or far in the future, totally up to you, but you should have the option. And Modern Fertility will give you the results and the resources to map these things out on your own terms. We don't just wait and see for anything else in our lives, and fertility doesn't have to be any different. What's even more important is the quality of the test. So they're all conducted with a CLIA certified lab and Modern Fertility's team of physicians and clinical advisors that lead some of the nation's top fertility clinics. Me being in my mid-30s, I'm very curious about my fertility. Obviously, if I do want kids, I got to get on it, but I don't know how much time I actually have left. So I logged online to take the quiz, and it was super self-explanatory. It wasn't invasive or uncomfortable at all. It was very straightforward. They ask you about your fertility goals, your age, and some more personal qualifying questions regarding your feminine health. Are you on birth control? How do you feel about actually taking an in-home test? And so I'm just really excited to actually take the test itself and get the results back. Visit modernfertility.com/commas. Take their fertility quiz and get $20 off your Modern Fertility test. That's modernfertility.com/commas to take their fertility quiz and get $20 off. modernfertility.com/commas.
It's Life Hacks.
Life hacking, baby.
Tech tips and tools for everyday needs.
Tap in.
Control, copy these shortcuts and simplify your life.
You heard us.
So social media popularity versus true entrepreneurship, I think, are two things are getting combined that they shouldn't be. So when you're actually an entrepreneur, you should be focused on the business and getting customers results. And when you're on social media and you're kind of like an influencer, that's a different type of business. So you're kind of looking at that in the vein of influencer marketing, and you're at the mercy of a brand. So a brand will come to you and they'll say, hey, Sequoia, I need you to market XYZ because I know that your audience is going to be the perfect customer for us, right? But they're not congruent. Like, you don't market your social media content, or you don't market your entrepreneurship content like that. You find exactly where your customer is living. You go to that customer and you say, okay, whatever that problem that customer is trying to solve, you're providing the solution. So that doesn't mean you need 100,000 followers for that. That doesn't mean you need 200 likes for that. That doesn't mean you need 40 comments for that. You can have 10 comments for that, and 8 of those people are asking very specifically, how did they get the solution to their problem? And you're solving their problem. And that is entrepreneurship in its purest form, right? So just because you have a popular social media account, or just because you don't have a popular social media account, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the type of sales that you need in order to generate and have a true business. So going back to popularity, it's validation seeking, right? So do you want to be popular, and why do you want to be popular? That's the biggest question. And that is deep rooted. That can come with so many different answers. And a lot of that comes with insecurity, to be honest. A lot of that is people are trying to fulfill a need that they don't have within themselves, and they're seeking that through the validation of others. So they're going out and they're like, hey, if I can get these likes, if I can get these followers, then I'm going to be happy, right? They're equating that to happiness. And to be honest, like me being in all 3 of them, I have an influencer account where I do influencer marketing. I am a journalist, so you'll see like different artists and different celebrities on my account, and I'm an entrepreneur, but they don't service each other. Like, they all stand alone, right? So if you're seeking popularity just for the sake of being popular, then you need to figure out what's going on internally with you that, you know, you're not exploring and you're not conquering, because those are issues that are bubbling up that you're looking for the outsider to basically heal for you. So entrepreneurship is totally different, right? Entrepreneurship, like I said, is solving a problem for the customer. And with entrepreneurship, it's not sexy. Like, it's not that glamorized, like I'm on a yacht popping bottles. You're in the trenches and you're trying to solve this problem, and you are literally asking your customer for their advice on how you should solve the problem. And a lot of people think that it is that going out and getting your likes and your followers and all those things, but that is not the case. It's very unsexy. It's the part that you don't see. It's behind the scenes. It's talking to your customers. It's making sure that you're providing value to those customers. It's getting those customers results. Those are the things that true entrepreneurs do. And what's interesting is 9 times out of 10, you don't even see the entrepreneur on most businesses. Sometimes you'll see, like, if it's a personal brand facing business, you'll see the brand as a part of the business, but they're not necessarily the reason why you're actually purchasing the product. You're purchasing the product because you feel like it's going to solve a problem for you. So that's why you're going out and purchasing the product, not necessarily because of the fact that there's certain faces on there. So that's really what entrepreneurship is. It's literally solving the problem for the person, and it really has nothing to do with you. Entrepreneurship is one of the most selfless things that you can be, because yeah, you want to make money, and yeah, you want to, you know, obviously not work a 9 to 5, or, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to escape in that realm. But at the end of the day, it actually has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with your customer. So going back to influencer marketing, that is a market where you're looking for likes and comments and subscribers and followers and all those things, because essentially you're going to a brand and you're saying, I have a certain niche that I know that your brand is going to connect to, and you're going to pay me essentially to get your product in front of my customer or my followers, right? So in that case, you are looking for the likes and the followers and the comments. But again, you're at the mercy of the brand. What a lot of people don't understand is if an RFP comes in, they have very specific directions that say, this is what you must say. This is what you must do, right? And it's not as sexy as you think. You're servicing this brand. So again, it's not about you. It's about the brand and what their needs are. You service the brand and they give you a check for that. So again, it goes back to what your needs are and what the brand's needs are and how you're accomplishing that for the brand. And it's very important to be very clear that again, is not you trying to fulfill the popularity side. And if there's, like I said earlier, something going on with you internally that you haven't dealt with, that's not that. It's actually you are a part of now their marketing campaign. You become a face for that brand. So essentially, that's how influencer marketing works. So you'll see the people who are the loudest in the room and they get the most attention on social, but don't confuse that with business success. Just because they're the loudest in the room and they're the most seen and they have the most likes and the most followers and etc. doesn't necessarily mean they're running a successful business, right? It's fulfilling something called dopamine, a dopamine release on social media. So once they get that instant kick, then they're going to be trying to figure out, okay, what's next? And you're at the mercy of the platform. Like once you get transfixed on this, you're servicing another platform that you don't own and you just become another cog in the wheel. I mean, how many billionaires can you actually name that are like yelling how much money they spend on social media? Think about it. Like really think about that. And how many tech companies do you see that are using social media where you actually see the CEO on there? Like, wouldn't that be crazy if you logged online and Jeff Bezos was hitting up IG stories every day? I'd be a little concerned. I don't know about you guys, but what you should actually be doing is understanding that success takes patience. It's a long game. So if you're not seeing customer conversion within the first couple of months of your business, yeah, that's normal, right? Do not freak out. Do not be like, oh my God, where are my customers? Because they're coming. If you're servicing a market and there is a market share, you will get the customers. You just have to be patient and continue to iterate based off of the customer's feedback. You should look at where your views are and where they're not, and you should make smart business decisions based off of that. So I see a lot of my views and a lot of my engagement on LinkedIn. So I'm going to stay on LinkedIn. Why should I be on Facebook? Why should I be on IG? Why should I be on Twitter engaging with these audiences if all of my views and engagement is actually coming from LinkedIn? You shouldn't be starting multiple businesses at once. Start one business, master that business, have one product, have one service, master that product, business, and service, and get as much revenue as you can out of that first. Then you can go and scale beyond that. So if you do all of these things correctly, if you go missing for 10 days from social media, no one's actually going to care because you're going to be focused on your customers. If you're not posting on Instagram, if you're not posting on Twitter, if you're not posting on Facebook, but you're sending your customers emails and you're figuring out how to delight those customers, or you're engaging with them on the platform that they use the most and you're focused on what they're doing and how to get their feedback and give them the best product or service possible, then you're going to keep growing. That's just inevitable. You should be asking yourself, why do you want to be rich and successful? What's behind that? You should be asking yourself, well, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to get these likes and followers on social media? Why do you not think you're cool now? Are there things going on internally? You should question that. You should want to know how you can fulfill the needs of your customers if you are serious about being a true entrepreneur. So these are actually some habits that you can start to form as an entrepreneur that are not the likes and clicks and followers that will actually give you the success that you want.
You should wake up at a certain time. I would say the earlier, the better. You should meditate and focus on what you want to do for your day and making sure that you have certain milestones that you want to hit. Exercise for 30 minutes in the morning just so your blood's flowing, your energy's up to par, and you can accomplish what you need to accomplish for the day. Eat a good, well-balanced breakfast so you make sure that you have that energy to execute. You want to be your optimal self as an entrepreneur. If you're not doing these things, you can easily burn out because there's so much energy that you have to put into building this business that if you're not your optimal self, it can get really tiring and really draining. So make sure you're doing that and then focus on optimizing your tracking and your funnels. Make sure that you're engaging with your customers on a daily basis. Look at the data and understand where the customers are coming from. Send your customers thank you messages when they purchase and make sure that they know that you appreciate them. It is so much easier to retain a customer than to get a brand new customer. Obsess over the business results, not the popularity.